Hello everyone, welcome to the series on the history of English literature, and this is the second part of poetry in interwar years. And in this video, we will discuss developments in poetic technique. First of all, introduction. The interwar period 1918 to 1939 was marked not only by socio-political upheavals but also by a revolution in poetic technique. The trauma of World War I, the collapse of established certainties, and the inadequacy of past poetic conventions to express new anxieties led poets to search for innovative forms. The period saw a radical break from Victorian and Georgian poetic traditions, ushering in what we now call modernist poetry. Modern tension and the need for formal innovation. Unlike the complacency of mid-Victorian verse or the aesthetic escapism of the 1890s decadence, the interwar generation faced a stark, often brutal reality. The emotional disorientation and intellectual crises of the era demanded a new poetic medium, one capable of mirroring fragmentation, alienation, and moral uncertainty. Poets realized that inherited forms, rhymed quatrains, metrical regularity, and romantic diction could no longer accommodate the psychological and social complexities of modern life. As such, experimentation became not just an artistic choice but a necessary response to cultural rupture. The move toward free verse and open forms. One of the most notable developments was the adoption of free verse, influenced in part by Walt Whitman's expansive, unrhymed lines and democratic voice. British poets began to abandon rigid metrical structures in favor of flexible, organic rhythms. Free verse allowed for shifting perspectives, abrupt juxtapositions, and colloquial language. The form mirrored the chaotic inner landscapes of post-war consciousness. It became central to the work of modernist poets like T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, and later W.H. Auden. Free verse also enabled a new musicality, where sound and syntax were liberated from inherited pattern, but still carefully controlled for expressive effect. The influence of Gerald Manley Hopkins. The posthumous publication of Gerald Manley Hopkins's poetry in 1918 had a profound influence on interwar poets. Though a Victorian by chronology, Hopkins was modern in spirit and technique, and his work only gained wide attention during the interwar years. Key innovations from Hopkins included sprung rhythm, a flexible metrical system that emphasized stress over syllable count, dense verbal patterning, use of alliteration, internal rhyme, and compound adjectives, disrupted syntax, abandonment of normal grammatical order to prioritize rhythm and emphasis. Hopkins provided a bridge between traditional religious lyricism and modernist experimentation, inspiring poets to treat language itself as an aesthetic event, compressed, musical, and charged with emotion. Conclusion. The interwar period ushered in a radical shift in poetic technique. Influenced by Whitman's freedom, Hopkins's innovation, and the harsh new realities of modern life, poets moved away from inherited forms and embraced free verse, verbal experimentation, and syntactical flexibility. These innovations weren't merely stylistic, they were deeply connected to the poet's moral and psychological need to express the disjointed modern condition. The legacy of these technical experiments still defines contemporary poetry today. So this was the discussion on the poetic techniques in the interwar years. We will meet in the next video and discuss some other topic. Until then, goodbye and thank you.